Hello everyone, welcome back to Vickie's Country Home. I've been out of the picture for 10 days or so. I have been just completely wrapped up with my bookkeeping clients and getting their work done, all of their forms sent out, so it's just been hectic, and this had to just wait till I got a little bit of time. So I've got the majority of it done now, not complete, but at least I'm seeing daylight again, because when I'm doing this I really don't. It's just put your head down and work. But it's January, and every year I promise myself I'm going to do this, and every year I'm too busy and don't find the time to do this. We don't eat a lot of jams and jellies. We just don't. Every now and then. One thing we do love, and we will eat a lot of, is marmalade. And one of my very favorite, other than the lemon ginger that is just wonderful, is grapefruit. I love grapefruit marmalade. I love the tart, sweet taste, and I don't like it overly sweet. And this is the time of year that citrus fruits are in season, and so usually I miss it. By the time I get around to finding time, it's not a good time to make it. This year I'm going to do it though. So I'm going to make grapefruit marmalade, and I'm going to use Pomona's Pectin. Now I buy it in bulk. It's less expensive and it doesn't expire like the other pectins do. The others, you're taking kind of a risk if you use it after the expiration. Pomona's doesn't do that, and part of the reason for it is it's a two-step process. You have the pectin, but then you have calcium powder. And it's just a little pouch that you get with a huge amount of the pectin. So in order to activate the pectin to make it work, what you have to do is make up some calcium water, and you can make up it. You make up a half cup at a time, but then you can put it in your refrigerator and keep it for months. So, I mean, you use a tiny bit of this with half a cup of water and just use what you need, and then store the rest in the refrigerator. And I just do that in a small half-pint canning jar. So that's a half of a teaspoon. That's all we need of the calcium powder. To that you add half a cup of water. And you just put it in a little jar. Mix it up well. I'll use what I need today, and then this will go in the refrigerator for the next time. And before you use it, every time, even after it sits a little while, just shake it up to make sure it's completely mixed. So that's the secret. The other thing I love about Pomona's Pectin, other than it doesn't expire, is it's very easy to go low sugar. Or you can go full sugar. You can do either one with the same product. So, and I'm not an associate of theirs or anything like that. I'll probably put an Amazon link for my associates down below. But I love this stuff, and that's why I'm using it, because it's there when I'm ready to use it, and I don't have to make a trip for something I don't use much of, or throw away what I don't. So that's what we're going to do today, is make grapefruit marmalade. So let's get started on this. The very first thing you need to do is pick out your grapefruits. I'm going to try it with 5 and see how much that gets me. After it's cooked, I need 6 cups of the fruit and peel mixture. So I think 5 grapefruit is going to give me that. I'm not following an exact recipe for this because this is a Pomona pectin that I'm adapting to grapefruit. And it called for 6 oranges. Now, I may come out with more, and that's okay. Because of the way you work with Pomona pectin, we will measure out the amount of fruit that we need at the end after it's cooked. So what I did, first of all, if you can find organic, get those. I didn't have time to shop for organic and they didn't have it handy. So I just bought a bag of grapefruit. This is from Costco. And then I washed peels very, very well. I washed them and rinsed them to make sure that anything that was on there that I got off. Because we're going to use peel and we need to make sure that it doesn't have any nasty things in it. So what I'm going to do is I want to peel these. And I only need the peels from probably 2 of them. So it's not like you have to peel all of these first. So we'll peel 2. And you want to peel very shallow. So I hope you can see. I'm not getting the white pith because that's bitter. That's not going to taste good in the marmalade. We just want the nice translucent grapefruit peel. Alright, I've got 2 of the grapefruits peeled. And I tried to choose the ones that had the nicest peel, that was, you know, no scars on them or anything like that. So I'm just going to try and thinly slice these and maybe chop those in half. But I'm not going to do anything really fancy with it. Just get it smaller pieces. And for the most part, they're kind of like that. In my cutting board, I need to put a towel under it so it'll stop doing that. So I'm going to get busy, get these all chopped up fine after I put a towel under my cutting board so it'll stop moving around on me. And then we'll come back and show you what to do with these grapefruit. Alright, I've got those peels cut up fairly fine. A couple that I can do a little bit finer. But I've got them cut into very thin strips. And so now I'm just going to start peeling the grapefruit. And once I do that, then we're going to scrape out the flesh and remove the seeds so that we can get just the flesh of it. Look at that beautiful color. So I'm going to get to doing that. What we're looking for here is to get all of the membranes, all of this pith, all of this off of there. All we want left is this beautiful ruby red flesh. So I'm just going to get these peeled, and then I'll come back and show you how we get the flesh out without all the membrane. So let me get with it. Alright, I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So I got this all peeled. And you can see that peel was pretty thick, so it's much smaller than it was. So now what I'm going to do is just slice down right beside the membrane. That way we can make sure that we've got just the flesh and the pieces just fall right out. And once I get this done, then I'm going to chop these into small pieces. And doing that, I'll be checking and getting all of the seeds that might be in there, although so far I haven't found any. So they come out beautiful. I've got the first one done, and this is what's left. That's all the membrane, and it just kind of stays together, other than a few tiny pieces and maybe 4 or 5 seeds. So that gets discarded, and there is a lot of juice. These edges are just swimming in juice. And I'm just going to go through and chop it into small pieces. And I'm going to feel for any membrane or seeds while I'm doing it. But so far, really haven't seen that. So we're just going to chop it up fairly fine. And then that's going to go in with the peels. And boy, is this juicy. So it's a mess. So I'm going to get finished with this, and I'm going to do all of these. So I'll come back in a little while and show you where we go next. I have all the fruit chopped up, de-seeded, peels, 2 peels that were sliced very thin and cut into short pieces. So I'm going to put them in my pan. And now what we're going to do is start adding the other ingredients. We're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Now this was not in the Pomona Pectin recipe. This was actually in the Ball book. And they say what this does is it softens the peel a little. Because sometimes when you make marmalade, the peels are really kind of tough and chewy. So 1/8 of a teaspoon baking soda. Now this is when we're going to add our calcium water, so I'm getting it well shook up. And we are going to add 3 teaspoons of the calcium water. So there's 1, 2, 3. Now this will go in the refrigerator, and I've got to put a label on it. And that will be ready for the next time I make something. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. And when you're canning, you always use bottled lemon juice because you want the right amount of acidity. So 3 tablespoons. So I have my grapefruit in here, the peels. I've got 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. You could use lime. 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. And 3 teaspoons of calcium water. So the next ingredient I need to add, it calls for 3 cups of either water or juice. And I was going to use water, and then I decided, you know what? I have home canned cranberry juice that's unsweetened. This is just cranberry juice made with water. So I'm going to use it. And I found this really, really nifty tool. This is a jar opener, and it is almost effortless to open a canning jar, and it doesn't bend the lid. So I don't think they make them anymore, but if you come across one of these, I'd snag it because I love the thing. All right, so it calls for 3 cups of either water or juice. Well, I'm going to add 1 pint of my cranberry juice, so then I'll add 1 cup of water. And that's going to be a pretty color. All right, I'm going to take this over to the stove and I'm going to bring it up to a boil. And then once it's at a boil, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer for 20 minutes. All right, so my fruit mixture has come up to a boil. I turned it down to a simmer and I covered it, and I'm going to stir it occasionally and cook it for 20 minutes. So in the meantime, I'm going to prepare the pectin and the sugar. So I have my Pomona's pectin, and we're going to add 4.5 teaspoons of the Pomona's pectin. And you have a choice. You can either use honey or sugar. And if you use honey, it's 1 to 1.5 cups. Or if you're using sugar, it's 2 to 3 cups. I'm going to use sugar. And with the Pomona's pectin, from what I've read, you should always start with the smaller amount that it lists and add your pectin to that. And then after you add it and it's all dissolved, you taste it. At that time, if you want the higher amount of sugar, you add it. So we're starting with 2 cups of sugar. And we're going to add the 4.5 teaspoons of Pomona's pectin. Okay, now we're just going to stir that together. Alright, now I'm just going to go keep an eye on the fruit, stir it occasionally, and then we'll come back when it's time to add our sugar and pectin. It's been 20 minutes. We're going to take that lid off, give it a stir. Now what I'm going to do is measure out 6 cups of this mixture. Okay, that's what we have left. So I'm going to put that in a second measuring cup. And that came to a little bit over 1.5 cups. So I'm just going to set that aside. And I may decide to make more of this, and if I do, I can add that to it. So there's the 6 cups. And we're going to bring this back to a boil. And in the meantime, I have my water bath canner is, the water is hot, and I have my jars in there heating because, again, being off grid, I do things a little bit different. So I've got my jars in there staying hot. And I have water heating for my lids. And I've got everything all here ready to go. So once I add the sugar and pectin, at that point, we're going to do that when this comes to a really good, full rolling boil. And we'll add those and stir it vigorously for 1 to 2 minutes. And what we're looking for is the pectin to totally dissolve. And at that point, we're going to taste it and see if we want more sugar. I prefer to go with as little sugar as possible, but we also want it to taste good. So Again, you start with the smallest amount of sugar that it calls for, add your pectin to it, and then you can add more sugar after the pectin is dissolved. So I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then we'll come back and then we'll see what happens next. All right, it's been a few minutes, and what we're looking for is a full boil that you can't stir down, and we're almost there. And what that means is that it will continue to boil as I'm stirring it. And I hope you can see this. While I'm stirring this, it's continuing to bubble. So that's what we're looking for. So I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar plus the Pomona's pectin. And now I'm just going to stir it in vigorously without splashing myself, hopefully, because this stuff is screaming hot. And it feels like the pectin has already dissolved. So at this point we take a taste. I may add just a little bit more sugar, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 cup. That was about 1/3 of a cup, I think. We'll get a fresh spoon and give it another taste. I think that's perfect. So now we're going to stir this and bring it back to a boil. And then we're going to turn it off and remove it from the heat. All right. Now it's time to jar this up. So I'm using 1/2 pints, and they stayed very hot. I had them in the canner over the hot water so that they would stay hot. So I'm going to put this into 1/2 pint jars that are hot, and we're going to fill this to 1/4 inch headspace. And for those of you that are not familiar, first of all, we're going to debubble. Even though it's liquid, we still want to debubble. And 1/4, so we're just shy of 1/4 on this. So we're going to put just a touch more. And that's 1/4 inch. So now what we're going to do is, I've got some water with vinegar, and I'm going to clean the rim really well. Make sure there's no stickies on it. Get a lid and center it. And put my glove on because this jar is very hot. Fingertip tight. And then this is going in the canner. So let me do one more. We're going to debubble. Check our headspace, and it's perfect. Clean our rim. Lid, ring fingertip tight, and in the canner. So I'm going to do the rest of these, and then I will bring you back and we'll see what this looks like. Alright, I got 6 half pints, and then I got about another half, which is about 6.5 cups. So I'm going to take a taste. And it is beautiful. I love the color. We're going to see how that cranberry juice worked with this. Oh, that's nice. It's very different. You can taste the grapefruit, but you can also get that hint of the strawberry. You can also get that hint of the cranberry. And it's gelled up nicely, so I think this was a success. I'm very happy with it. So I've got my 6 half pints in my water bath canner, and I have some empty jars around it just to hold them up in place. And I'm going to process them for 15 minutes for my altitude, 10 minutes at sea level. So be sure and check and make sure what is appropriate for your altitude. And then we're going to take them out and let them cool. And I think we're going to really enjoy this cranberry grapefruit marmalade. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your friends. That helps out my channel. And be sure and click on the little notification bell and tell it to notify you for all of my videos, and that way you know as soon as they come out. So God bless, and we'll talk again soon.